Something I want to kind of show you really quick is a technique in ZBrush that allows you to get a better mesh to work on top of. Now that involves using and utilizing the remesh all and project all. And then of course coming down here and working with your geometry and moving up and down as far as the resolution goes. And then you can also use the deformations palette in order to help polish out some of the imperfections in your mesh as you're working through it. But to quickly move along, I basically want to show you something, and I'm gonna hide, or actually I could actually delete this. And I have done a little bit of modeling, and as you can see here, I've come up, something fun. I wasn't getting too creative, but also I wasn't trying to stay under par or anything like that. Basically, I've taken up quite a few of the regular tools in the brushes palette and just played around with them. Something you can obviously do in order to just try to understand this tutorial. But if we want to try to get this mesh to not look so bad, say for instance back in here where you see some of the imperfections in the geometry as they're starting to pull away, you start to see that the resolution isn't enough. Well, you can actually take this mesh in its highest subdivision level and then remesh all. But make sure sometimes that these buttons are actually pushed. You want to make sure that all of them are taken off. Obviously, you're going to have situations where you're going to need them. In this case, it's a very simple model, so we're going to just move up the resolution. It normally starts default at 128, but we're going to bring it up to about 512. And we'll have to type this in. And this is the polish button where you can actually polish it out a little bit to make it a little bit more uniform for the resolution that you're putting in. Obviously, the higher the resolution, the more it's going to cater to all the individual edges here. So we're going to hit remesh all. It may take a second. And now we have a new mesh, which basically is a much better mesh to work with, considering if we're going to go further into detail. Now we can take this particular mesh a little bit further by using the project all in order to get this mesh to fit the other one. And then you can still work into this as well, but we're going to basically try to project what is underneath by making sure that we don't have the high res selected, but we have the lower res selected. And then we're going to kind of divide it a little bit, add a little bit of geometry to it, and then hit project all. You can set your distance, your mean, and you can find out what that is in some of the tutorials on YouTube. But very simply, I mean, it's basic. Just hit the project button, and as you can see, it will probably try to get a little bit closer. Now you see all these little imperfections in the mesh where you can kind of like smooth those out. And actually, we're going to go back for a second, and I'm going to hit the symmetry button and smooth that out so that both sides get caught. Now, sometimes it may have a little bit of a problem, but you can actually work through that. But the concept here is that you are making a better mesh to work on top of. And now we do have a better mesh to work on top of as opposed to what we had before, which had pixels that were, pixels that were all over the place. So you can take that as far as you want. That's a really quick note on how to use the remesh and the project all tools.